Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our transatlantic conversation. For nearly 3 years, we've enjoyed the privilege of hosting Association Transformation for the international membership community. Over nearly 40 hours and 70 plus episodes, we've hosted more than 100 guests from the UK, the USA, Australia, South Africa, and many points in between. Regular listeners will know that over the years, we've covered a huge variety of topics, from change management, leadership relationships, and 4-day weeks, to financial strategy, income generation, and modern governance practice. And of course, who could possibly forget the unicorns and the puppy dogs episode? We really hope you enjoy every episode, and while we will always make our content freely available, remember, subscribe wherever you get your favorite pods. If you would like to lend us your support, you can do so by subscribing to the pod from as little as $5 a month. Now, hopefully it goes without saying that Elisa and I and the whole Association Transformation production team will appreciate your generosity and your ongoing support. To subscribe, visit patreon.com/Association Transformation and choose the monthly subscription level that suits you best. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Association Transformation. And remember, whatever you're up to today, put your members and your mission first. Enjoy the pod.
Well, hello. I'm very, very excited. Does it ruin my credibility when I say that I'm very, very excited about every association transformation episode?
I don't think it ruins your credibility. I think it enhances your reputation for being the single biggest nerd that I've ever had the privilege of working with.
And coming from you, I mean, the king of Lego, that is, I don't think people know this about you, but you are a Lego geek. So if you're calling me a nerd, that really means something, and I'll take it as a compliment.
Ouch. Well, I'll accept that compliment. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So now that we've complimented each other and we've both admitted that we're nerds, let's get into this because episode of Association Transformation, I think is going to be pretty transformational, especially for you.
Especially for me. Yeah, I agree. I agree. This is a subject that I'm actually been since you told me that we were hosting this pod, I've been twitching to record it because I'm excited to get into it. But I'll let you introduce it because
Twitching. Okay, all right.
I just know nothing about it. So yeah.
Keep your twitching to yourself, and let's just get to it. So, drum roll, one of my longest association friends, contacts, mentors, we have Sarah Sladek with us today. I mean, I can't believe it. After all these years, we've finally gotten her. Speaker, author, CEO, leader in strategy, talent economy influencer. She's everywhere. And I am excited that we have her just a few days off of the release of her newest book. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, it is so fun to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And you don't have to admit to being a nerd. This is not, don't feel
I'm a nerd.
Pressured. We're all association nerds, so it's kind of, it's a safe space. But you and I have been working together for, almost 20 years now. I brought you in as a speaker when I was managing a component relations department, and you were one of the very first speakers kind of on the circuit, and really the first association expert in generations, not in generations, but about about generations, and how we may need to address members and prospective members of different ages differently. How did that start? Where does it exist now? I know there's been some debate and discussion, but how did you get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Elisa, I don't know if I like that you said it was 20 years ago. I would have preferred you just said it was a long time ago, but
we were just out of college. We were
so incredibly young. I mean, so young. We've been through different hairstyles, colors, kids, all kinds of things. But
absolutely.
But yes, I started researching this topic because I was a young professional working in an association. Prior to that, I had been a business journalist. And as the story goes, I attended this national conference for associations And at the time, I was at one of those rubber chicken dinners with 400 people. And the speaker said, "We're so excited. There's so many young people in the room. Would everyone under the age of 40 stand up?" And I was still in my 20s at that time. And I stood up and looked around and I was like, whoa, this is a lot of young people under 40 in that room of 400. There were 12 people standing.
Wow.
And my journalism instincts kind of kicked in. I thought, there is a story here. Where are the young association professionals? And I was thinking about my own career and my own association that I was working with and thinking, we're in for a difficult time, because at that time it was all about, well, Gen X is so difficult to engage. And and it's because they're slackers, and it's because they don't want to work, and it's because this and because of that. And I thought there is more to the story. And basically I was just inspired to figure out why we had seen a shift in membership and belonging trends.
And now think how many more generations we've had to define and give attention to try to understand needs and value and how they communicate and how they want to be approached. We won't even ask Andrew what generation he's in, because I think he's just an old grumpy soul. So it may
so mean. You're so mean to me. You really are. Actually, when you were talking, you were like, what am I? I am Generation X. I'm Generation X.
Are you?
Yes, what do you mean am I? How old do you think I am?
Well, again, you're an old soul. You're an old soul. So
certainly the characteristics that Sarah described there, slacker, difficult to engage with. Yeah, I was thinking,
that's true.
That was me. True. Yeah, excellent.
But you've worked with associations as well that become, we'll just say, pale, male, and stale, and struggle to engage that next generation of their membership or their profession, and that's only become more complicated.
Yeah, it's become heavily pronounced. I think with the more layers we've got in terms of generations in the workforce generally. What are we now? I think we're 5 generations working, in the workforce, and I think it's become a legitimate question in terms of how are we engaging with different generations. I also suspect for some organizations it's become a cheeky little excuse to not do some hard work around it and say, millennials, it's so hard to engage with them, so let's not bother. And let's just stick to, a winning formula that was winning maybe, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but actually is wholly irrelevant today. I mean, am I being unfair, or Sarah? I don't know. What do you think? Am I being mean? Which Elisa seems to think I am all the time.
I didn't say mean. I said grumpy.
Not to be overly dramatic, but we are seeing, generations is a thing, because now more than ever, because we've seen a tremendous amount of change, number one, and it's kind of a new phenomenon in a way. We've always had generations, yes, and generations are defined by social change. And guess what? There's a whole heck of a lot of more monumental social change happening now than in previous eras. So we're having to figure some things out, including not only are we seeing different generations shaped differently, but we're also seeing for the first time ever, because of advancements in technology and more access to education and information than ever before, that really the playing field has leveled, and every generation has something to learn and something to teach. And that hasn't happened since caveman days. I mean, ever since the beginning of time, it's been about, well, the elders of any given society have all the power, all the wisdom. Everyone gathers around and learns from the elders. And now we're beginning to realize, well, wait a second, young people actually have something of value to bring to the table. They have different skill sets, they have different worldviews, and we need to be listening to them. But also in membership, especially, young people aren't as readily joining and just jumping in like previous generations did. So we have to make more of an effort to understand them, listen to them, and truly engage them.
You know, I wonder the apathy and the excuses that Andrew alluded to, was that heightened by COVID, or did COVID give people even more of an excuse to not focus on those next generations because they were just trying to survive? I mean, did COVID delay our appreciation for the crisis that truly exists?
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's true with generations, but isn't it true with like a lot of things? You know, we heard when COVID started hitting, we started to hear things like, I can't wait to go back to normal. And normal wasn't really working, especially for young people and especially for women. But that's another platform. But or people of color for that matter. COVID was a wake-up call, allowing us to modernize, really, and to move into a tech era, which we've been in for a long time, but we haven't truly embraced it. And it just became, the concept of change just became so incredibly exhausting that people resisted it. And now, even now, I see associations going back to, well, we're going to do everything in person again, and we're not going to do anything hybrid, and we're just going to scrap virtual. And oh my goodness, whoa, let's not try to go back in time here. We need to go forward, not backwards.
I think some of that reflects. I mean, we've had conversations on the pod, and many times, and I'm sure we will again. You know, I think that reflects an issue around just generally around sort of innovation and risk, creativity within the industry, which I think, you know, is something that transcends generations. I think it's a more entrenched issue that needs to be sort of taken apart. But what I'm noticing, you know, I'm also noticing the things that you're describing, which is this sort of almost let's go back into our comfort zones because we are exhausted with, you know, innovation and change. And I'm kind of almost sympathetic to it, but I'm not really, because, you know, my position is that, you know, membership organizations, they hold such an important civic role, you know, in society. You know, I think that, you know, to hide behind the excuse that we're tired is inexcusable. But what I noticed the other day, I mean, I was facilitating some discussion about, you know, what does the particular organization look like in sort of 5, 10, 15 years time? And I could not get this group, this board of directors, I could not get them out of their quagmire. And actually, it was like a generational assassination. Them trying, I said, right, you know, we got a new generation coming out of college, going into this profession. What are we going to do to capture them? Oh, we can't. They're all in it for themselves. They're just focused on the money, Andrew. You don't understand. They haven't got that sort of that old-fashioned sense of community. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is nonsense. But that's why I'm getting the sense that people are just using it as an excuse to just sort of challenge some hard work and to change the way they're working and the way they're engaging with people. I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe that this was the language they were using. They were basically attacking new or younger generations. And yes, this group was largely pale, male, and stale, and a lot staler than I am. But it was alarming. It was alarming when you think about the work that you're trying to do, and the work that your book highlights. I think it's alarming me that there's that kind of attitude around sort of leadership tables that is really undermining a lot of the work that so many other people are trying to realize and deliver in the membership sector.
There is nothing that upsets me more than what you just said.
I didn't mean to upset you, I assure you.
Oh my gosh, it's infuriating, right? Because again,
Mm-hmm.
especially in associations, you are supposed to be responsible for and representative of a community of people. And so choosing to stereotype, choosing to discriminate, choosing to eliminate, be unaccepting of certain populations within your community is just poor governance. It borders on the unethical, and get out of leadership. Oh my gosh, that makes me so mad.
So I'm going to ask something controversial only because in some of the groups that I've worked with, there has been pushback from the, I'll just call them legacy members, longtime members who have contributed to the organizations for most of their career, if not all of it. And they feel that this shift to capture, engage, welcome, and appeal to these younger generations has then shifted attention away from, and in some ways begun to discriminate against, the older and long-standing member who is not considered, i.e., the future or the next generation of the industry. How do we balance that so no one side of this feels like they're being ignored at the, that the outreach to the other is at the expense of them?
Right. I have so many things to say to that. I'm just trying to organize my thoughts. First of all, young people are your only succession plan. Mm-hmm. So by eliminating them, and then, I'll hear associations say, we can't get young people, but then, and then they turn around and say, we don't want young people because they're high maintenance or they're difficult, or, oh gosh, I don't want to change. Well, guess what? If you are really, truly a legacy member, and you really care about this association you're part of, you should care about the next generation and leaving it in a better place than when you found it. Number two, I don't think that it's about us and them. I don't think it has to be a tug of war. I think it very much should be a collaborative effort and a co-creation. And that's what community is. But we all too often kind of resort back in time once again to those age-old traditions of it's hierarchical, like what I was just saying, that we've had these hierarchies since caveman days. But it is absolutely imperative that we get past that and begin to have those conversations in collaboration with young people. It's not about, we're turning everything to them. And it's not about, we're going to keep all the power over here and not give anything to them. It should be give and take. It should be both. It should never be us versus them. It should be about us, we together, and what we're creating for the future. Yes, Elisa, I see your hand up.
I have my little Bart Simpson hand is raised in the corner of our Zoom window. We could go on and on and on characterizing the challenge. And sadly, the challenge hasn't changed that much in the years, and I will whisper decades, that we've been fighting this and talking about it and screaming about it to try to bring change. Yeah. Let's talk about the solutions, because you've just published your 6th book, Member Shift, and I want to applaud you. And also, I'm hoping that it's bubbling over with solutions, because the problem is the problem is the problem is the problem. Yep. What are we going to do about this? And what's finally going to make a difference, move the needle in this space?
Right. Okay. So,
No pressure.
No, I know. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's why the book was written. Why members leave, the strategies proven to bring them back. And there's a big piece in that related to young people and building the community of tomorrow. But let me answer that question first by saying that in preparation for this book, I did some research. Last year, our firm did research on a global scale. And we learned, after getting responses from people in over 50 countries, that membership is universally, regardless of geography, regardless of size of association or type of association, every single association, for the majority that responded to the survey, are struggling with change, struggling to engage younger generations. However, membership, we also learned from the research, membership's not a strategic or operational priority. That has to change.
Stop that. What? So wait, if it's not strategic or it's not operational, what the heck is it? Does anybody care? Is it just floating around in the background, assumed? How can you not be either strategic or operational in your priority of membership?
Right. That is a great question, isn't it? So there's a few things at play here. Number one, yeah, it's often assumed. Well, people will eventually join. They grow into it. Their employers tell them to do it. You know, there's all these kind of myths and methodologies around it. And we're here, we exist, so young people will eventually find us. No, that's not necessarily the case anymore. The concept of the association needs to change, but also we've found that really associations have veered towards, and COVID didn't help with this, but have really veered towards things like focusing heavily on advocacy, focusing heavily on producing events and huge conferences, and membership has continually inched backwards to kind of be like, oh yeah, we do membership too. We're just going to be over here entertaining and serving all these non-members. But if you want to join, hey, you could do that too. And we have a few benefits for you. But really, a lot of the benefits associations are still providing aren't incredibly high value.
No, because I was going to say, because the financial drivers are so or the economic drivers, well, the financial drivers are so strong that you know, offering a product or service to non-members at a premium is a far more profitable endeavor than it is to roll out what is wrongly perceived as free or inclusive benefits for members. It doesn't generate as much income, and I think post-COVID or during COVID, and I think the financial landscape is so uncertain for associations that the driver to make money and squirrel it away is almost overpowering, overwhelming. It's overriding everything.
Yeah, I agree. As well as tradition. But think about, you know, there's a couple of things that, you know, again, that strategic operational priority. All too often associations say, in the work that I do in our firm, we do a lot of membership strategy development and research. And we have clients come to us all the time and we'll say, when's the last time you surveyed your members? And it way more often than not, people say, oh, it's been years, probably 5 to maybe 10 years ago. We've actually had some associations come to us and say they've never surveyed their members.
Wow, I find that's extraordinary. That's mad. Because I remember, when in associations I've been in, we've been having debates about, should we do another survey? Are they going to get survey fatigue? You know, we were having those conversations. I can't believe it.
No. Wow. No, right. No, surveys, you got to be in touch with your market all the time, not making assumptions. I don't think that in today's market, survey fatigue is going to be a thing. I think actually, if we look towards the future, the market's just changing so incredibly often. And we hear from younger generations all the time. They want an opportunity to provide feedback. And so I think, whether it's polls, surveys, or whatever it's going to be, I think associations have to keep their pulse on what's going on in the market a lot more often than they have been. But so there's the survey piece. There is the piece of looking at how organizational charts pop up for associations. And a lot of times membership is one little department at the bottom, and maybe it's one person in some cases. And yes, we've even come across associations where there's 0 people responsible for membership. There's like no person on the staff, or it's only membership sales, not talking about service, retention. It's just membership has largely been taken for granted. And that's what I mean when I say it's not a strategic or operational priority.
So you've mentioned a couple pieces here that I think we all need to reflect and include in our solutions toolkit. And that's the survey piece. That's really listening, because there's a difference between surveying and actually listening. But when I think about the book, and I admit it's only been out for a few days, my Amazon delivery has not arrived yet.
Oh, come on, Lise. Come on, Lise. I prepared for this. I read it in advance of this session. Come on, Lise.
Of course you did. You're way better than me, and you have no social life, so you had tons of time over the weekend.
Just me and my Lego. It's just all it is. Just me and my Lego. Yeah.
But no, seriously, when I read the title of the book, Why Members Leave Associations and the Strategies Proven to Bring Them Back, the first thing I thought was, okay, this is about retention, which is a bit of a different take for you, because usually your discussions are about recruitment. How do we engage these new groups? How do we go to audiences and be more inclusive and welcome? What's the balance in this book between retention and recruitment? And by the title of this, are you already presuming you have the members that you need and that you want, and it's just about keeping them?
So this book is largely about strategy and organizational culture, really, because all the data points back to, in the research and preparing for this book, the data points back to that people aren't, especially young people, but members in general, are leaving associations because they don't feel like they belong. And so when you start breaking down that belonging piece, again, there's been change in what people want from their member experiences. There's been demographic change, especially. Young people are coming into associations wanting something very different. But also we are seeing a change in terms of just, you mentioned Amazon. Amazon's incredibly intuitive. People are wanting experiences. Our consumer culture has changed, and people are wanting experiences in membership that are also highly intuitive, modernized, welcoming, creating cultures of belonging, progressive, innovative, ahead of the curve, all these things. Well, in order for associations to accomplish that, they need to really rethink a lot of aspects of their operations. And so this book is talking about some of the major trends and challenges and changes, and what associations need to do to prioritize membership again.
Well, congratulations on the launch. I will read it. Andrew and I will book club about it. He's obviously ahead of the game. But congratulations on the new release. Thanks. There's so much to be tackled here. I mean, we can't keep you forever. And sadly, a lot of these challenges and problems aren't going away. I think you have nothing but job security in this arena. And I wonder what's next. Andrew has a 6-year-old. I have a 12-year-old. What's the next generation called? Are they alpha? Are they?
Yeah. Well, right now. Yeah, right now, alpha is the placeholder name for this for both of your children. So you don't have Z's, you have the next generation. And as we think about who and what is coming next, well, obviously technology keeps advancing. We see an increased awareness of mental health issues. We see increased demand for skills training, leadership training at much younger ages now to fill in, some of the career gaps. We're seeing constantly changing careers, entirely new careers emerging. All things that associations need to be paying attention to, these trends. But I will say, for your children, as well as the generation right before Gen Z, people are usually really fascinated by this, but their brains are developing differently than prior generations. So we're actually seeing evolution happen right now. And that's kind of, I just find that really, really fascinating. So
let's not tell them. I don't want my child to think that he's more highly evolved than me. Let's just put the brakes on that right now.
Well,
don't come back until they're gone.
There's certain sections of the brain that are evolving faster for these generations, but there's also sections of the brain that are developing slower.
My 6-year-old girl certainly knows that she's the alpha. There's no denying that. I'm not like, no, I'm the alpha. No, Daddy, I'm the alpha. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's clear that the pick up your clothes and don't talk back portions of the brain are not developing.
No, no, that's true.
I think we can confirm that, but exciting, more research on the horizon, I'm sure. Sarah, thank you so much for all that you contribute to the membership conversation. We would love to have you back. I encourage everyone to pick up the new book, Membership. It is just a few days old, launched on September 14th. So again, congratulations. Andrew, thanks for joining me today and being so nice to my association friend. I appreciate it. And
I'm always nice to your association friends because they're my friends.
I don't know. We'll have to go back and check the tape on that. But
the tape. How old are you? The tape. My God, you question what generation.
That was generational.
We're talking about tapes.
That was generational.
All right, fine. Now I'm being shamed for being as old as I am, and we're not going to talk about it anymore. So until next time, I say put your members and your mission first.